No.
We'll do it live! Fuck it!
I'm Liz.
This is Surly Amy from skepchick.org.
I'm Keith from Sydney, Australia.
Hello, I'm Daryl Ray, author of Sex and God and The God Virus.
This is Rebecca Watson of skepchick.org.
I'm Vivian Wheeler from Planned Parenthood.
I am Devin Napoli from Planned Parenthood.
I am Richard Carrier.
I am Monette Richards from Secular Woman.
I am Stephen Olson from Carl Sagan's Dance Party.
I'm JT Eberhard, and I'm a he-thinker who loves the she-thinkers.
I'm Debbie Goddard. I'm from the Center for Inquiry and African Americans for Humanism, and I'm a human thinker.
I'm a Faisal, and I'm a he-thinker, she-thinker, they-thinker, it-thinker.
Hello, everybody. This is Dave Fitzgerald, and oh yes, I am a she-thinker.
Hello and welcome to Secular She-Thinkers, where secular girls geek out and justifiably rage. I'm your host, Story Mooneyham, joined by my co-host, Dirty Nerdy, who is drinking wine at the moment.
Hey, everybody. Don't tell them what I'm doing. They're supposed to guess at it and then win imaginary prizes, because we have no money.
No. Tonight we'll be talking about unpaid labor.
Yay!
Woot!
I just mentioned not having money.
Yay!
This ties in.
We'll also have the boss and troll of the week, a stupid sexist song, and atheist Bible study. What does the Bible have to say about women's rights?
All good, I think. All good things.
Totally. It's gotta be.
It's the Bible. It's like synonymous with good, right?
Yeah. But first, a word from our sponsors.
Woo, sponsors.
She-Thinkers is sponsored by Audible.com. To check out their service and get a free audiobook of your choice, go to audibletrial.com/She-Thinkers. You can download books to your Apple or Android device and just about anything else you might listen through. Again, go to audibletrial.com/She-Thinkers to download any free audiobook of your choice. That's SHETHINKERS, She-Thinkers.
What the fuck is wrong with this wine bottle? Sorry. I tried like 10 times to pop the cork and it wouldn't work. Okay.
Hashtag troll wine.
Goddamn troll wine. I think my hand was just wet or something. Because the bottle was frozen, so it was all wet.
Uh-huh.
Or was that the other bottle? I don't remember.
It was the other one.
I don't remember how many we've gone through tonight.
We've already gone through the first bottle of wine.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So, you want to start with the secret word of the week?
Sure, what's the secret word?
The secret word this week is the second shift. Did you like that one?
I did. Okay.
So, here's our quick explanation of what the second shift is. While women have increasingly gained access to paid labor in the Western world, their unpaid labor workload has not decreased significantly. This means that when women are done working at their paid job, they continue to work at home. This results in less leisure time than men and increased stress.
You know, how I deal with that is I just don't clean.
Right. And that's usually what ends up happening. Either you're super lucky, and if you're in a hetero relationship, then you actually share the workload. Or you have a messy house, because ain't nobody got time for that shit. Or you just work a second shift and bust your ass, and then you don't have any time to relax, and you get stressed out. Hooray,
Yay.
Being female.
Okay.
So anytime we talk about the second shift, take a drink.
Okay.
I meant the listeners, but, you know, Dirty Nerdy always plays with the drinking game.
I drink in solidarity with the listeners.
As long as
they don't feel like they're drinking by themselves.
Because, you know, it's dangerous to go alone.
Yeah.
Take this.
Exactly.
All right. Let's talk about trolls, Dirty Nerdy.
Okay. My cat was a real troll this morning. He kept, like, crying at the door. He sounds like a newborn baby. Not even kidding.
So does the pup.
Yeah, your pupperoo.
Yep.
Was whining in the other room earlier, and it sounded like I heard baby noises. That's what I thought it was at first.
It's because.
But yeah, troll of the week is my cat for waking me up by sounding like a newborn baby every morning.
No, that's not the troll of the week.
No?
Nope.
That's who I choose.
It's Kansas.
Kansas.
Yep.
What did Kansas do this time?
Well, Kansas, the legislatures of Kansas are trying to pass the Turn the Gays Away bill.
Legislatures. For some reason, I thought that was funny.
Probably because of all that wine.
Oh, right.
So, basically what this law would entail is basically making segregation legal again, only segregating against gays rather than, people of color. What are you doing?
I spilled wine. I was cleaning it up.
So yeah, it's legalizing discrimination basically.
Yay! Oh, wait.
Yeah. So that's shitty. There's also other states that have done this. I think, no, Kansas has passed this law already, and Tennessee is introducing this law.
Yeah, they're the runner-ups.
Yeah, they're the runner-ups because they haven't passed it yet.
States that do not explicitly include orientation in their non-discrimination laws already kind of implicitly have this law. Texas is one
like our home state of Texas.
Yay, Texas! Only not yay, Texas. That booing didn't go on long enough.
It's like 9 seconds long, which is a long time. So, you want to let George Takei take care of this for us?
Yeah.
All right.
Pretty good at that.
Hello, I'm George Takei. You are a douchebag. That's right, a douchebag. You are always going to be a total douchebag.
Epic.
I just want to point out that douchebag is like the perfect insult because like douches are useless and harmful.
Right?
So
FYI, you
awesome.
shouldn't douche.
Yeah, don't do that.
Your vagina's pretty magical at maintaining itself.
We should have a Do You Science Bro or something.
We should.
On that. Next week, guys. Look forward to it next week.
I'm already looking forward to arguing with my surgeon in a few months because they expect you to douche early on.
Oh dear.
Yep.
Okay.
So maybe we'll work that in when I'm off in Thailand.
Maybe it's different when it's surgery?
Maybe.
I don't know.
I doubt it though.
Okay.
I'll have to do some science research on that one.
So
Okay.
Who's our boss this week?
Well, our boss is from our own town of Dallas. Yay.
Woo.
It's two I wouldn't call them friends, two acquaintances of ours who got hitched and are one of the first gay couples married in Texas. What? You want to talk about this?
Yes.
All right, we've mentioned in the past, I think Caitlin and I talked about it on our trans episode that we did, that the state of Texas doesn't know what the fuck to do about trans people when it comes to discriminating against gays. Basically, the state of Texas wants to discriminate against gays by not letting them get married, but at the same time, they also don't want to acknowledge that trans people are the genders that we actually are. Which means they have a fun conundrum where a trans woman who the state of Texas refuses to acknowledge as female can technically have a legal lesbian marriage. And that's what happens today.
Fuck you, bigots.
Suck on that. Get it? Because trans thing.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Because it always boils down to penis.
So, I mean, they're kind of trolls too, because you're basically trolling the bigoted laws that Texas has put in place.
Yeah, but in a good way.
But in an awesome way. So that's what makes you a boss. So, yeah, congratulations. I want to get their names right if they're listed in the story. If they're not, then I'm going to assume they want to be anonymous in the media. I think that is the case. So, congrats to two acquaintances of ours who have gotten legally married in the state of Texas.
Woo!
Go lesbians. They lesbian together. As wife and wife now.
I just love saying, go lesbians.
Yep.
Let's be honest here.
Let's be honest. All right. Let's talk about unpaid labor.
Oh.
Yay.
I was in a good mood.
All
right, fine. So unpaid internships suck.
Yes,
I
they
can
do.
attest to that.
Which is probably what most people think of first when they think of unpaid labor.
Yeah, so that's what we'll talk about first.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about a couple other things. But, like, I'm dealing with the unpaid internship hell right now because I would have I would be on my way to finishing my second degree right now if I could find an internship in my field that pays. Because I can't afford to have an unpaid internship.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people in different fields, especially like the social sciences, are dealing with, is that they can't really afford to have an unpaid internship, but the unpaid internship opens doors to further their careers later in life. And, in my case, I have to do the internship to finish the degree. So that sucks.
Well, and this is something that I have to think of too, because in order to become a counselor, you have to build up so many intern hours.
Yeah.
Thankfully, most counseling internships are not paid well by any means, but they're at least paid something, which is better than a lot of people get.
The boy is pretty lucky. He's in engineering, and so just about every internship he's looked at is paid. So he was pretty lucky. Well, I don't know if he's lucky to be in the engineering field, but he is, it's a favorable outcome for him.
Yeah.
He's been able to get an internship and work on a lot of different projects and really expand his experience in the field because he was able to find a paid internship. But yeah, so I do want to call attention, Miri Mogilevsky over at Brute Reason.
Woo!
Go Miri, at Free Thought Blogs, wrote a blog post about this called Unpaid Internships Are Exploitative. And she's in the social sciences, I believe, I can't remember what degree she's getting at the moment. I think she's working on her master's. But basically the problem is that you can either spend your summers, working a paid job as a barista or server or something like that, typical college job, and making the money that you desperately need, or you can spend your summers working an unpaid internship.
Yeah.
Building up your resume and stuff like that. And the problem is, the paid job will help you make bills right now, but it won't help you advance your career later in life. And you can't really blame the schools, the master's programs and stuff like that for looking at people who have the experience. But you also have to understand that not paying them is exploitative. It's like, hey, you have to take this. If we're not offering pay, you still have to take it because you understand that you won't be able to advance in your career afterwards if you don't.
In a way, unpaid internships are basically like class-based obstacles where if you're trying to break the class barrier, so let's say you're somebody from lower socioeconomic status and you've busted your ass and you've gone to school and not only have you got your undergrad degree, but you're working on some kind of grad school program, because that's usually when you have to start going into internships. So you've bucked the odds already by accomplishing an undergrad degree.
Especially since that costs thousands of dollars.
It does. But then on top of it, you're expected to somehow magically be able to afford to work for months without getting paid.
I have seen listings for unpaid internships that's basically like, do this professional job. Like, you have all the responsibilities of a paid professional, but you're not getting paid. Because we're calling it an internship and we're tying it to this college class, so it's technically legal.
Yeah.
It's bullshit, really. And the thing is, for my degree, not only are most of the internships I look at unpaid, but the paid ones expect you to be able to do more. Obviously, they're paying you. So they expect you to have experience. I'm like, well, it's an internship. So...
Yeah, the whole point of an internship is to give you experience.
So not only are you most likely not going to get paid, but you also have to pay your school to be in a college class.
You are paying your school to work for free.
Exactly. I would have to pay my school to work for free this semester if I had found an internship. And I just told them, fuck it, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking for a job with the degree I have.
Well, like I said, that's one of those class barriers that's built into the system, where if you're somehow able to make an unpaid internship work, it'll open more doors for you where you'll be able to earn more money. But if you're not, then you're basically just cut off from that earning potential.
This is a problem in a lot of fields, like social sciences is one of them. Journalism is a big one. I was going to go into journalism, but then I found out that like you can't get paid shit in journalism.
Not for a long time.
For a very long time. But it's also a problem in politics and in film and teachers.
Yeah.
Especially in Texas. My mom went through this. She became a teacher like later in life. She graduated with her master's when I was in high school, and she's been a teacher now for about I want to say 5 years or 6.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember when I graduated, so I can't remember when she started her actual teaching job. But in Texas, they're really stringent about your student teaching. You're basically not allowed to have another job outside of your student teaching,
mm-hmm.
and you don't get paid while you're student teaching.
Yeah. So.
I say you're not allowed, but they're very, very restrictive of how many hours you can work at your other job if you have another one. Because while you're student teaching, you may start off just observing, but by the end of the semester, or however long that you have to student teach, I don't remember, you're taking over the class, so you're doing the full work. So they want you to focus, and it makes sense, they want you to focus on the teaching. They don't want you to have to be focusing on this other thing.
But, if they really wanted you to focus on the teaching, they would just pay you, and then you could afford to focus on your job.
And here's the thing. Then you end up with not very many people from lower classes in things like journalism, politics, film, social services, teaching, academic research, all these areas that need people who are from a lower who have a history of being in the lower classes.
Those are the fields that need diversity the most.
Exactly.
And they're the ones that have it the least because of unpaid internships.
Especially,
among many things.
Especially in social services.
Yeah.
I don't understand how they expect to get any type of diversity without fixing this problem. It's really mind-boggling.
Well, and it's ridiculous because even if you're just paying them shit pay, at least
minimum
it's something.
Wage.
Yeah. Even fucking minimum wage would be something.
I really can't stand up and be like, oh, well, it gives you experience. You know what else gives me experience? A paid job.
A paid job gives you just as much experience.
Right now, I'm about to, I'm in the interview process still, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to get this job. I'm able to leverage a job working at a restaurant into branch managership for this other company. I don't want to get too into my personal life, but I'm able to talk up the responsibilities I have at a restaurant. I'm not a manager of this restaurant.
Right.
I mean, I have some leadership responsibilities, but basically I'm having to really talk up what I do right now in order to get a better job.
Well,
so it's like you can get experience from a paid job.
And any company that is genuinely interested in investing in its workers is going to pay you to train you. If they're genuinely interested in making sure that you can do the best job that you can and that you're willing to stick with them, then they're going to invest in training you, which means they're going to pay you to give you experience.
Now, here's what I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind if I had an internship program that would pay for my school for the semester.
No.
I wouldn't mind that. That would be cool.
Especially if they got off your ass about having another job on the side.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be like, oh, wait, this counts if it counts as college credit, or if it pays for your job for your college for the semester. Anything like that would be really cool. Or if it was like a work-study program where, yes, I'm working here, but the payment goes towards school.
I would add the caveat that as long as whatever compensation you're getting, when you factor in the hours that you're working, it still comes out to at least minimum wage, then I agree.
Yeah.
So if they're paying your tuition for the semester, and your tuition's, I don't know, mine's like between $2,000 and $3,000 every semester, which is actually cheap compared to most universities.
All I have left is the internship, which is only as the college credit that I need for it. It's only like 2 hours.
Yeah.
So, and it's a county college, so it's not that expensive.
Exactly.
So if they paid for those classes, it would be below minimum wage.
Exactly, and that's my point, is like, even if you're getting a college credit for it, you have to factor out how much that college class costs and divide that by the number of hours you're investing into this fucking internship, and it's going to be drastically below minimum wage. And minimum wage isn't even a good measure anyway, but it's something.
Yeah, it's really not a good measure, but
it is literally when somebody's paying you minimum wage, what they're basically saying is, I would pay you less if I could, but it's illegal.
Exactly.
That's my interpretation of minimum wage.
I do want to point out that there have been some lawsuits brought against companies. So it looks like, from a legal standpoint, it's pretty shaky because the people who brought these lawsuits actually won.
Yep.
So from a legal standpoint, it's looking like unpaid internships are becoming more and more are on shaky ground, basically, legally
Which is
from
good.
From a legal standpoint. I'm sorry. I'm really drunk, so I'm repeating myself. So that's some good news on the horizon. The only problem I have with that is that a lot of places are just going to stop offering internships.
Yep.
And I don't know how to fix this without just forcing people to offer internships. So it's like, I don't really know how to fix this problem, but it is a problem.
Well, and
does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm just going to throw out here, because I've heard this complaint a lot when working with younger people, where they're like, I can't get a job because they want me to have experience, but I can't get experience because I can't get a job.
Yeah,
and
I'm
my
in
advice,
I'm in that boat right now.
My advice that I give to people in that situation is volunteer. It counts as a job.
Yeah.
That still counts as experience.
I have done a lot of volunteering, and that's actually helping me in my job search right now. I started an SSA group at school.
Yep.
And I went ahead and put that on my resume. Because I did have to...
It's leadership qualities.
It is leadership. I was the president. I started the group, and I was the president of it. And I put together a fundraiser. I put together a Darwin Day activity. I put together a lot of stuff for this group.
Oh, that reminds me, Darwin Day was this week.
Oh, yeah. Happy Darwin Day, everybody.
Yay, happy Darwin Day.
So, if you volunteer for things, usually if you're volunteering for something, it shouldn't take up as much of your time as an internship actually does. So
no, you make your own schedule when you're a volunteer.
You're a volunteer, so you say, I can work these hours, and then you do it. The boy actually had a pretty good gig. At his school, there's this, race car thing.
Yeah.
And he was actually able to work. He went and volunteered, and he worked as many hours as he could. He was never an official part of the team, but he can still put that on his resume, and it looks really good.
Yeah.
Because it's an award-winning project there.
And that's the big difference is versus an internship or volunteering. With volunteering, you're setting your own schedule. You're deciding what you're able to work.
Exactly.
And you're not being exploited because you're a volunteer. If they are trying to exploit you, you can say, fuck you, I'm a volunteer, and go volunteer somewhere else. You have all the power as a volunteer. You don't have all the power as an internship. They have power over you. But even, because Miri points this out at the end of her article, even fucking nonprofits can have paid internships. And I'll tell you, as someone who's worked for 2 different nonprofits are not rolling in money. They're scraping by to make ends meet. And if they can afford to pay their interns, then so can giant corporations that have unpaid internships right now.
And I want to boost it here because I like both organizations. The Secular Student Alliance and the Center for Inquiry both have paid summer internships.
Woo!
And they're nonprofits.
And they're awesome.
There are other nonprofits. Planned Parenthood also has internships that are paid. I actually applied for them, but
they're pretty awesome.
I applied for a position that's in Houston, so they rejected me, but it's probably a good thing because I didn't want to move to Houston.
Yeah,
I
looked into Planned Parenthood too, just because I'd love to work for Planned Parenthood.
I would too. I would love to work for them. I've volunteered for them once, so.
I have too.
Yeah.
And I teach safe sex quite a bit, so.
And I've protested with them before. So
right.
Yeah, I want to volunteer with them. Work for them. But yeah. So yeah, if you've got. I would say if you need to get experience on your resume and you can't afford to do an internship, volunteer. Yeah, it's not as many hours. It may not be as prestigious as an internship, but at least you can set your own hours and everything, and it can get you some really valuable experience.
Yep.
And especially since, even though unpaid internship and volunteering, you're not paid for either one, it still looks better. I feel like it looks better for you as sort of a philanthropist type of thing to say I was a volunteer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, and again, you have the power as a volunteer, which you don't as an intern.
You can quit if they're being shitty.
Yeah, so I think that's a pretty significant difference. I like how we're recording you pouring wine.
I do too. I like wine. Shut up. It's delicious.
It is delicious. Okay, so that's unpaid internships. What topic do you want to talk about next for unpaid labor? It's hard to decide.
We could talk about prison labor, or we could talk about the second shift. Oh, Drake!
Let's do prison labor, because I feel like that's a good segue for internships.
Go from mostly college students to prison labor.
Yeah.
Which that's a whole lot. We could have a whole show on the exploitative prison system in the U.S.
Oh God.
Oh dear.
The prison for profit.
Yeah. Well, prison labor ties into the whole for-profit prison system.
Oh yes.
Here's the thing. Unemployment stays high, but prison labor is booming. You know? Yeah, look at that.
Well, of course it does, because it's basically, it's I don't know why, but it's legal to pay them well below the minimum wage.
Oh, well,
even though they're Americans living in our country who...
If you commit a crime, you have absolutely no rights ever again.
Oh, right, I forgot that. It was in the Constitution somewhere.
How dare you?
Oh, wait, no, it's not.
Being in prison isn't enough. You also have to work for 93 cents a day. I do want to
and 93 cents a day is if you've got a good job.
Well, according to this article, it's 93 cents to $4.73 per day. Per day.
Yeah. Not per hour, per day.
I do want to point out
which then you just turn around and spend on the commissary, so the prison gets all of your fucking money back anyway.
I want to point out I am cognizant of the irony of posting an article about exploitative prison labor from the Huffington Post. Because Since they have unpaid journalists?
Yes,
they have unpaid journalists.
As does every form of journalist.
Basically. You can't really get around that. So, yes, I do understand the irony there, which ties back into our unpaid internship thing. They're like, look, your name is in print, so that's good enough. We don't have to pay you. Fuck you.
Right.
My name being in print doesn't pay the rent.
Are you going to make money off of my article? I'd like some of that money.
Exactly. But yeah, the prison labor thing. So basically what you have is companies that used to just exploit their exploitative labor to China and other countries that don't have labor laws, or ones as good. I put scare quotes around the word good, as in the U.S., because they're not that great here.
No, they're really not.
They're bringing them back to the U.S., but they're bringing it back to U.S. prisons. It's pretty much started in the 1970s. What happened is, in the 1970s, manufacturing jobs got exported to other countries, usually in South America or Mexico, China, third world countries.
Or developing countries.
Developing countries. Sorry.
It's all good.
My bad. I apologize for that. And then what happened was they were able to drive down prices using exploited labor in other countries. And then when the for-profit system started gaining more ground in the U.S., the for-profit prison system, they brought the jobs back to the U.S.
because they now had American citizens that they could exploit.
Exactly. So yeah, the jobs are coming back here, but the workers are still being exploited, and in the meantime, unemployment is still high. It all sucks. So basically, a lot of companies take advantage of this. Bank of America, AT&T, Walmart, Starbucks, Chevron. All of this is talked about in the article I posted. It's pretty ridiculous to know that we still basically have labor camps in the U.S.
Well, and what's even worse about that is you're not even going to be able to use that you're not going to use that to get a job doing that once you're out of prison. You can't put that on your resume. Nobody's going to take that seriously.
What are you gonna put? I was a furniture manufacturer while I was in prison.
Yeah.
No, you can't do that. So basically...
I mean, yes, you have those skills, but nobody's going to respect those skills. You're not going to benefit from those in any way.
You're not. So you spend all your years in prison, which our prison system is already not geared towards reformation. It's more geared towards, revenge, which that's a whole other show we could do.
We can do a whole show on prisons. I swear.
All right, maybe next week. I don't remember what we're supposed to talk about next week.
I don't think we've decided what we're doing next week.
Prison.
I'll have to look and see. Hang on. Anyway, you keep going.
What was I talking about?
Well, so it's
you spend that time building skills and everything like that, and our system is already not geared towards reformation, but those who do try and they want to build skills and everything in prison, and then you can't put that on your resume. I mean, you could, but not very many places want to hire someone who's in prison for so long. And your criminal record's going to come back with that. Or at all. Your criminal record is going to come back with that. And so, basically, you don't even get the privilege that unpaid interns get of citing that experience.
You don't even get that.
It's like, you're even more underprivileged than unpaid interns. And given the U.S. drug laws, you're probably in jail for the same thing that unpaid interns do every weekend.
Yep. But unpaid interns are probably white, and prisoners are probably people of color.
Exactly.
So,
for more information on that, you can go read The New Jim Crow.
The New Jim Crow, which is our Audible book this month.
What is her name? By Michelle Alexander?
Yes, I think so.
All
it's
right.
in the commercial.
Yeah,
They'll find out.
It's in the commercial. So listen to that in a minute.
But seriously, you should check it out.
You should. It's a great book. But yes, and this all ties back to privilege, basically. I forgot what I was saying.
As all things do.
As most things do. So you get this point where you get this experience that you can't use, and then you're not even really paid.
Yeah.
So basically, it's still slave labor in the United States. And people accept it because, they broke a law. So it's okay to deny.
They're bad people. They don't get rights.
Exactly.
Even though a lot of them are just there for drug offenses, but we'll have to have a whole episode about the quote-unquote war on drugs at some point, too.
And we also need to have an episode about reformation versus revenge in the criminal justice system.
We'll work that into a prison episode.
Okay. So we can talk about the second shift now?
Yay, second shift. Take a drink.
Twice, because you said it.
Yeah, I did. So, yeah, what most people don't think about when it comes to unpaid labor is they don't think about housework. Because that's woman's work, and therefore not even worth considering as labor, even though it's very fucking labor intensive.
Something that Shit, I'm sorry, you can talk because I can't even get my thoughts in order right now.
Well, so we already mentioned when we were discussing the second shift, and you're already drinking, even though women are increasingly joining the paid labor market, so I think, I forget what the statistics are, but I think it's like 70% of women have jobs outside of the home. So the vast majority of women work outside of the home.
And I want to point out this myth that women never worked outside the home until the 60s.
Oh, that's wrong. Bullshit.
It was more white, middle class to upper class women didn't work outside the home.
Also, that women who did work outside of the home, the pay was even worse than it is now. It was disastrously worse before.
It was.
So.
I just want to point out that lower class women and women of color, and when I say class, I mean socioeconomic class.
Yeah.
They have basically always worked outside the home.
Well, and that's true of pretty much all of human history until, so you look at all of human history, men and women and everyone else have worked, because you can't afford to not work. If you're eating, then you need to work to reap food for you to eat.
And I do want to point out that the Industrial Revolution has a lot to do with this.
It does.
Because when most work was agricultural, everybody worked.
Everybody worked.
You had a home, you had a farm, you had a homestead to keep track of. So everybody in the home worked. Yes, things were divided based on gender. A lot of the work was divided based on gender. The women typically were in the house doing all of that type of work, and then the men were like out in the fields and stuff like that. But everybody was still working, and it was still considered work.
Yeah.
And then the Industrial Revolution, people started going to the cities to get work, and women stayed in the home and continued doing that work that used to still be considered work, and men went out to the factories.
Well, yeah, so now you're no longer working for food, because in agricultural times, that's what everybody was working towards. Was
you work for food and you sell off the surplus.
Yeah. But now with the Industrial Revolution, if you're working for money, which you then exchange for food. So it kind of changes things around. So therefore, whatever work you're doing that doesn't bring in money or food is considered less valuable, even though it's just as labor intensive.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like...
So that's where the whole housework and women's work thing starts.
It's not like household work isn't important. I mean, I challenge you to go a month without doing any of your household chores. Don't wash the dishes. Don't do the laundry. Don't vacuum. Don't clean up anything. See what the fuck your home life is like. It's gonna be shit.
You'll live in fucking squalor, basically.
Yeah. It's gonna be terrible.
It's impossible to not do housework. You have to.
So
even and this is a pet peeve of mine because it just perpetuates gender stereotypes. Even single men who live on their own, who are young, still do housework because they have to in order to fucking survive.
Exactly.
They might not do it well, but they still do it.
I really don't understand this idea of when boys grow up, they're not taught how to do housework, because it's not like they get married at 18 when they move out.
No. I mean, that might have been the case like 50 or 60 years ago, but it hasn't been for quite some time.
It really makes no sense to me when I meet a grown man who doesn't know how to do the dishes or load the dishwasher. I'm like, what did you do?
Yeah.
Before you met your wife or girlfriend or whatever. Because I've met grown men who actually do not know how to load a dishwasher. It's ridiculous.
To be fair, I've met grown women who don't know how to load the dishwasher either.
I guess so.
I don't understand how any grown adult doesn't know how to. Well, we've talked about this before. If your parents don't teach you how to adult, then nobody else does. So when it comes to doing your taxes, learning how to take care of basic household chores, basic financial things that you need to know how to do, opening a bank account, rolling over your 401k, I don't know, like all basic stuff that most people should know, but most people don't teach you.
But
so
when I was a kid, the only household chore I was never really taught how to do was laundry. I kind of had to figure that out by watching sitcoms about people putting red shirts in their white baskets.
I learned through trial and error as a kid.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. But most everything else I learned how to do as a kid. My mom, we were never rich enough to have a continuing allowance, like weekly allowance, but my mom pretty much had this thing where if you wanted money for something, if you came to her a few weeks before you had to have the money and talk to her, she'd be like, okay, well, do the dishes or vacuum or something, and then you'd get money for the work you did.
That's what Chris and I have decided to do when we have kids.
And it worked really well for me because it's like, okay, I need money for this thing, so I'll go work for a while. Because I didn't always need money, so...
When I want to bring this up because it still ties in with household labor and how it's mostly unpaid labor. I've heard a lot of people who talk about allowances and things like that where they view it as bribing your kids when your kids should just do whatever you tell them to do. Basically, they want their kids to be slave labor for 18 years. But that argument just makes no sense to me, and this comes up a lot in psychology because generally with kids you use behavioral psychology, which means that you reinforce good behavior, which some people wrongly view as bribing your child to do what they should be doing. But
no.
But adults go to a job and work in exchange for money.
Exactly.
So I don't see why it's so ridiculous for
You know
your
what?
child to expect some kind of reward in exchange for working.
Well, you know, my job
I think
is
that's
just,
a good precedent to set.
My job is just bribing me to be nice to the guests. You know, that's what they're doing. They're bribing me to be nice to them.
Right. We don't frame adult work in that way.
Exactly.
But we do. It's ageism, basically, is all that it is.
I do want to say that with kids, I don't think it's always necessary to pay. Like, if you can't afford it, I understand not doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say you have to or you're violating their rights or anything like that. But I do think it's necessary that children be taught, all children, regardless of gender, be taught how to do these things.
I agree.
Include them in the labor, in the household labor.
Well, and my point when it comes to...
In every part of it. I, to this day, don't know how to mow the lawn because I was never taught to as a kid.
Oh, fuck.
And since
I had to mow the lawn all the time growing up.
Since I've become an adult, I've never owned a lawn, so I still don't know how to do it. I figure once the boy and I have a lawn, we'll just pay someone else to mow it because he doesn't know either. So there's that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the important thing when it comes to like allowances and things like that is not so much like paying your kid a lot or anything. It's just it's teaching your kid to respect themselves and to expect some kind of compensation for their time.
I was always expected when it came to laundry, by the time I was a certain age, maybe 6 or 7, if I didn't have my stuff in the hamper and my clothes didn't get washed, that was my own fault.
Yeah.
That was kind of how it was. When it came to my own personal space, my own room.
Yeah.
Eventually when the kids got older, we had our own bathroom when we moved into a different place. You know, my own room, my own bathroom, that was our own responsibility. And I wasn't, you know, hell would freeze over before my mom would pay me to clean my room, for me to clean my room. But when it came to the communal living space, the living room, the kitchen, the dining room,
taking on extra
work.
If
I took on extra work and I needed money, then my mom would do it. But we would sit down and talk about it beforehand. I'd be like, "Hey, Mom, I want to go to this thing with my friends. My friends and I are going to go to Six Flags in a few weeks, and I'm going to need like $50 for it or something."
Which is a good skill to teach your kids.
It is
it's how to
skill.
plan ahead for what you want to do.
And this was in the days before cell phones, so we had to really have our plans cemented.
Right.
You could not change those plans after you left school. Not possible.
Sometimes I wonder how we fucking lived before cell phones.
I don't know.
Because we did for like half of our lives.
I never understood how to use a beeper, so I don't know. But, so I would sit down a couple weeks beforehand and talk to my mom and be like, "Hey, I need this much money." And she'd be like, "Okay, well, you know, you can dust the living room," which almost never got done because she was busy with work and whatnot.
Dusting's like the very bottom of the rung.
Dusting was a luxury for us.
Yeah, basically, it still is for me.
It's what got done when one of the kids needed something.
Yep.
I could dust, I could agree to do the cat litter exclusively.
Yeah.
For like 2 weeks or so, because all the cats belonged to my mom and all the children, so we all had to do the cat litter on certain days.
Yeah.
Just because that was the price of having a pet, you know.
Yep.
But if you agreed to do it exclusively for so long, she would give us so much money, you know. And I really liked that system.
Nope, it sounds like a good system.
I really felt like I was working for money that I needed.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works for kids who had a normal allowance, like they were paid a certain amount each week, no matter what. But I really liked the system that I had with my mom. It's one of the things that I really think that she did a great job on. And I think my mom did a great job on a lot of things. You know, she did have me.
Yep.
So, so that's kind of unpaid labor and how to deal with it with kids, I guess. But
well, when we're talking about adults. Like we discussed with the second shift, even though women are working just as much as men outside of the home, the hours worked inside of the home are not anywhere close to as even.
It's really not.
They're better than they used to be, but they're still not even. So
and that goes back to a lot of boys are not taught when they're children how to do these things.
Exactly. Which I don't even understand, because the society didn't view me as female until I was 20-something, and I still learned how to do all of this shit. Now, some of that is because my dad was worthless, and so somebody had to be the one taking care of the house. But and as the oldest, it was my job. But still.
And this is one of those, patriarchy hurts everyone. But also, I don't ever want to hear this as an excuse. Well, I'm a boy. No one taught me how. Well, I'm teaching you now, so pay attention so you'll do it right the next time.
Exactly.
My stepdad twice, not just once, but twice, accidentally bleached the carpet when he was trying to clean up cat vomit or something. He was trying to clean up something. Here's the thing. The bleach was in a white bottle. The pet stain remover was in a red, bright red bottle with rainbows or shit on it. All you have to do is read the fucking bottle.
Right.
It's not like my mom kept the different fluids in unmarked
matching bottles or something.
Matching garden spray bottles. I've done that with Febreze. It was pretty funny. Our Febreze bottle broke, and so I put the rest of it into the squirt bottle that we had, and the boy thought it was just water, and so the cat was doing something bad, and he sprayed it. So the cat smelled really fresh for a few hours.
So fresh and so clean.
So clean. But, it's not like she was keeping them in ridiculously similar bottles or anything.
Yeah.
All I had to do was read, and it's I can understand making the mistake once, but twice? No. Sorry. Yeah. That's just not acceptable at all.
Well, and here's what drives me crazy is it's more evenly matched with older people than it is with people of our generation, which you would think would be the opposite. You would think people of our generation are we've grown up with dual income households, we're used to working moms and things like that. So everyone our age should theoretically have been exposed to this, but it's actually the opposite. The oldest Americans, 65 and up, are actually fairly close to even. They're still not even, but they're closer to even than any other demographic.
Yeah.
Whereas, our age bracket, 25 to 34, is the biggest gap between the two. Where women are working twice as much in the home as men are.
And I want to point out, I feel like this kind of ties into the whole, excuse me, I hiccuped, the man cave phenomenon.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If 70% of women are working outside the home, and the number is not 100% for men, it's 80 or 90 or something like that.
Yeah.
Of men are working outside the home, then that means a vast majority of households have both the husband and the wife working outside the home, and yet we have all this stuff about man caves, the man specifically needing a place to be all
to unwind from work.
What about women? I want to know where the female cave is or whatever. I don't know.
Well, we're sitting in the nerd cave right now because fuck gender norms.
Yeah. And I just can't understand this idea that, the man just needs to get away for a few hours. What about the woman? Doesn't she need to get away?
Well, it's ridiculous because men have more leisure hours than women do anyway, so what the hell is he relaxing about?
Exactly. It's
try taking on this workload.
Really? You need to relax? and I also want to point out it's really annoying in a relationship to be men typically make more money than women. Not only because of sexist policies not policies, but sexist biases that end up paying men more than women for the same work, but also because women are typically pushed and encouraged into jobs and careers that don't pay as much as the ones that men are encouraged to pursue.
Which are affectionately known as pink-collar jobs in sociology terms.
Here's the thing. A woman, I can't speak. A wife and a husband and wife might both work the same hours, but the husband still makes more. And for some twisted reason, and I felt this actually in my own relationship, the wife feels like because she doesn't make as much, she has to make up for it by doing more of the housework.
Yeah.
If you work the same amount of hours, that's all that should matter, right? Because from a legal standpoint, any money earned in marriage belongs to both of you, not just one of you. So it's like you're building a life together. It's not like his money that he makes at his job is all his. No, that belongs to both of you. That's like part of the point of getting married is to merge finances. And so I really want to...
I mean, you've heard me say that's really the only thing that's consistent about marriage, besides what you put into it, is making two people into one financial unit. That's what marriage is.
It makes two people into one financial person, basically.
Yep.
So I just want this whole thing like, oh, well, I make more, so I shouldn't have to do as much of the household. I want that to die. I just want it to die right now.
I'm gonna go out there and be a little personal. So I go to a traditionally women's college. Boys are allowed in our college, but it's like 11 women to every guy on our college campus. So it's pretty fucking great, actually. Most of my classes have like a token boy in them. Which is...
I'm going to put it out there and say the degree that I've been recently working on is traditionally women go for it. Mm-hmm. So I feel you there.
Yeah.
Most of my classes have mostly women in it. So
psychology counseling is viewed as a pink-collar job because it involves, nurturing and socializing and things like that. But there's a lot of fucking work that goes into it. As soon as I walk around
on campus, it's like, man. And boys are cool and all. It's just,
Yeah. But so going to a traditionally female college, it's required for you to take 2 women's studies classes in order to graduate, which I think is kind of cool.
What the fuck is your cat doing?
I don't know. My cat's just being a troll.
I don't know if anyone else can hear that, but baby is just like crying his eyes out down there.
He's probably lost and doesn't know how to get in the bedroom, because that's what noise he makes when he's lost.
All right. Sorry.
Anyway,
going to traditionally women's college.
Yeah. So it's women's studies class. It's super basic because it's like teaching feminism to people who have never even considered the fact that feminism is still relevant in modern society is how our classes are made, basically.
What?
So,
that's a thing?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So I'm not going to lie, I pretty much blew off my first women's studies class, especially because it was so kindergarten basic. But the one class, chapter.
Today we're going to talk about how women are people too.
Basically, it was pretty ridiculous.
Okay.
Plus it's a freshman level class, so there's that extra level of headache added to it.
Caitlin was always talking about the gender studies class. It was all about explaining stuff to straight people all the time.
Oh, that was the queer studies class.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Queer studies. Sorry, not gender studies.
But the one thing that I did take away from my women's studies class was the chapter on unpaid labor, because I had never thought about the housework that I do as labor, because we're not trained to think of it that way in society. We're just trained to think of it as this is what you do.
Yeah, I just thought of it as something normal. And there have been a few things around that, like, I do around the apartment that I talked to the boy. I'm like, hey, it would be nice if you would help me out with this. And he's like, what? I never even thought of doing that.
Yeah.
And it's things that...
Well, it's the same.
Like, how can you live without doing this?
It's the same with Chris and I. After this chapter, and I can't remember if Caitlin was in this class with me or not, but she can attest that I was like going through a mini feminist crisis after reading this chapter, where I was like, oh my god, I do the vast majority of our fucking housework. How have I not noticed this before? Oh my god, it's because I'm raised in this society where I'm just expected to do all of this work and not complain about it, but I should because I don't have any fucking downtime, and it just like spiraled into I need to confront this. So I did. So Chris and I have split a lot of our household chores. I would say I still have the majority of hours spent, and mostly because a lot of what I do are daily chores. A lot of what Chris does are weekly chores. And to be fair, it's because Chris works more hours than I do.
I mean, so I can get behind the whole, whoever works the most hours at their, paid job should do fewer household work. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, and we factor in my school hours are work hours.
Yeah, I would like to factor that in too. Like right now, I'm doing most of the household work, especially since we're moving and stuff. I'm doing most of the packing, but the boy is also working a little more hours than I am, and he's in school. So I'm factoring that in, so it's not that huge of a deal right now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But and we split the chores based on what we're good at. To some degree, I've forced him to learn to be good at some things that he just needed to take on. For example, some of my daily chores that I end up doing are I cook all of our meals. So I pack us breakfast.
You're a really fucking good cook too.
I am a good.
I'm gonna put that out there.
Yeah.
Tonight she made chicken parmesan with spaghetti and vodka sauce. It was amazing. I loved it.
Don't forget red velvet cupcakes too.
And she made red velvet cupcakes. It was amazing.
Yay.
All of it.
So a lot of what I do is I cook all of our meals, which means I pack breakfast and lunch for when we walk out the door, and I cook dinner when I get home. I do all of our laundry, which is I would say is a weekly chore. But it's an all day weekly chore though.
To be fair, Dory's also doing most of my laundry right now too.
I do. Laundry to me is not much of a chore because it's mostly like, I guess there's big long breaks in between it, so it just doesn't seem as intensive to me. Well, it is for other people though, so I still acknowledge that it's labor. It's just labor laundry. I enjoy doing.
I hate doing laundry because I don't have a washer and dryer in my apartment. When I did, laundry wasn't that big of a deal. I could do the laundry right then and there and do other shit and kind of it could be out of my head for like an hour before I had to do anything with it. Yeah. It wasn't that big of a deal. But right now I don't have a washer and dryer in my apartment and it sucks ass.
Right.
So usually what I do is I bring the essential stuff that I need washed to Dory's on the weekend, and she washes my laundry for me.
I just throw it in with my other loads because it's no extra work for me anyway. So
that's the chore that the boy and I actually split the most is laundry.
I'm sure you both hate it.
We both hate doing
because
laundry.
Laundromats suck. I've had to deal with them before.
We usually do that together. If we can't bring it to your place, we do it together at the laundromat. And we fold it together too. So, I still remember the night that the boy said, "Hey, I'll fold the rest of the laundry if you go out and get us dinner and drinks." And I'm like, "Deal."
Done.
Doing that. Because I hate folding the laundry. If it was up to me, I wouldn't care whose clothes are wrinkly.
Yep.
Just put it in the basket because that's where it's going after you wear it anyway.
What else? I'm in charge of the cat box because the cat's mine. He came with me. He's been mine since he's 18. He's been mine for a long time. So that's my chore.
The cat's mine. I'm generally in charge of it. When I need to just pour out the entire thing and put brand new litter in it, then the boy helps me because I can't really lift things that well with my back being bad. But in general, I'm in charge of the cat box because the cat is mine.
And then we trade off the dog because we both adopted her. She's our dog.
Yeah.
Baby's my cat, but he's also Chris's cat. He's a step fur baby, I guess.
We have a step fur baby and we have a foster fur baby. Jim is our foster fur baby.
Chris is supposed to do the dishes and vacuum. I would say are his biggest chores. He also does a lot of the scrubbing and things like that, which is good because I'm just shitty at that. And I fully admit it. I'm not good at scrubbing the shower or mopping the floors or any of that. So he does all of that, which is only once a month, but I'm glad that he does it because if he didn't do it, I just wouldn't do it. It wouldn't get done.
Oh my God.
And he does spend hours doing it when he cracks down and does it. So
we both avoid scrubbing the toilet because it's gross, the outside of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll scrub the inside of the toilet, no problem, but the outside of it I won't do. I don't know what.
I told Chris he has to scrub the outside of the toilet because I'm not the one who's getting urine outside of the toilet.
That's
he
true.
Is. So.
I think my thing is with the inside of the toilet, I can spray it and scrub it with the thing. and I don't have to get my hands near it, and when I flush it, all the stuff just goes down. But outside of the toilet, it's like, where does all that extra stuff run off to? The floor.
Yep.
And then I have to clean the floor.
And then you got to clean the floor.
But yeah, the shower and the sinks, I basically scrub. Mostly because I like taking baths for my back, and if I don't scrub the shower, then it gets gross, and I don't want to take a bath in that. So that happens.
Right.
Vacuuming, we don't have a vacuum right now, so that's out of the picture.
That's Chris's chore.
But the place we're moving to is all like, we don't have any carpet in the place we're moving to, so I'm just gonna get a Swiffer wet jet, and that'll be super easy to do.
Woo!
Yay! Linoleum, faux hardwood floors.
Hooray!
Nice.
So yeah, I do want to point out before we go to commercial that like we've said before, the gender gap has gotten smaller, certainly in the last few decades. But, and this is what's important, a lot of where that gap has been closed is that men are taking on more responsibilities when it comes to childcare, but they're not really taking on more responsibilities when it comes to housework.
Well, that's because it's really easy to shame someone into taking on responsibilities with childcare.
Right.
It's really easy to be like, this is your kid. Why aren't you taking care of him? But when it's like, well, you should do the laundry. It's
yeah. Well, and that's an important distinction that we've both talked about before is when someone comes to my apartment and our apartment is messy, nobody is going to think, like, let's say someone comes to our apartment and the sink is full of dirty dishes, which it normally is, because Chris only does the dishes like once a week. So if someone comes to our house and they see the sink overflowing with dirty dishes, they're not going to think, Chris hasn't been doing his share of the chores. What they're going to think is, man, Dory's a fucking slob. She needs to pick up her game. That's what people are going to think.
It's basically the idea that, like, the household chores get automatically, even in people who are, who consider themselves enlightened, it automatically biases towards whoever is the woman in the relationship. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, if somebody comes over, and if, say the boy lived by himself and the place was dirty, somebody comes over, they'd be like, oh, boys
are messy. Yeah.
Boys are messy. But if someone were to come over and we live together, or I live by myself and the place is messy, it's like, ew, what's wrong with you? Why is your place dirty? It's an unfair bias. It's not fair to automatically think that it's the girl, the woman, who's being messy, and judging them, unfavorably based on that, when you wouldn't do the same thing for the man.
Exactly.
So, and this all comes down to, a lot of people say, oh, well, some people just like things cleaner than other people do. Well, that's nice, but let's think about who's judged more harshly than the other.
Right. That has to be taken into consideration.
It's not necessarily that I think I like things cleaner than the boy, because really we don't. We both are fine with the same amount of cleanliness or uncleanliness.
Which is true for Chris and I, too.
However you want to put it. But the problem is that I'm the one who will be judged based off of it, not him. So while I might personally be okay with living like the way we do, it's fine with me. I don't care if our living room has some dirty socks in it sometimes, like whatever.
Yeah.
I come in the apartment, I want to take off my fucking shoes and socks, and he's the same way. I'm fine with that. I don't care. The thing that bothers me is if somebody comes over and they see that, it's like, oh, she must not be very clean.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. The good thing about our relationship, though, is that when we do have visitors come over, he's very keen on getting the living room cleaned.
Good.
So that works really well in my favor. He's like, oh my god, we have people coming over? Holy shit, I gotta clean. So that works out pretty well. I don't have much to complain about in that area.
Yeah. So before we go to commercial, one quick little, I guess, silver lining in all of this is that queer relationships don't really have this issue. So 2 female households or 2 male households, generally the way statistics show that the way that labor is split up is not along gender lines, obviously, but more along who's better skilled at each particular job. So
I can't lift super heavy things, so the boy does the trash.
Yeah.
That works out.
And this is nice for you and me. This also holds true for queer people in heterosexual relationships. So
yeah, we hit our bumps in the road, and I text Dory about it when it pisses me off. But in
Same
general,
with me and Chris.
in general, the boy and I have a pretty fair relationship when it comes to household chores. You know, that doesn't mean it's perfect. We have our days, but you know, in general, I think it's pretty fair.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same with Dory and Chris, actually. And really, that comes down to communication.
It does.
We have to communicate a lot if something's bothering us. Like, hey, you know, I know I do the dishes most of the time, and I don't really mind doing the dishes because I'll listen to podcasts while I do them, and I don't find it that gross. But it would be nice if you would clean off your plate and put it in the dishwasher so I don't have so much to do.
Yeah.
You know, that's really all there is to it. Just communicate in your relationship what you're willing to do, what you're good at, what you don't mind doing. A lot of the times it ends up being like, you know, maybe you don't like doing the dishes and they do, and they don't like doing the laundry and you do. And so it's like, okay, well, I'll do the laundry and you do the dishes.
Yep.
It works out. Yeah.
So communicating makes me think of when we come back after this commercial break, I think we should talk about nagging coming up next.
We can talk about nagging.
All right.
Okay,
So we'll be back after this commercial break.
It was quite a weekend. That little dust up in Lubbock Saturday night. And then yesterday, Missouri's All-American defensive end Michael Sam, the SEC's Defensive Player of the Year and expected to be a 3rd to 5th round pick in the NFL draft, tells the world he's gay. The best defensive player in college football's best conference, only a 3rd to 5th round NFL pick? Really? That is shocking. And I guess that other thing is too. Michael Sam would be the first openly gay player in the NFL, says he knows there will be problems and they've already started. Several NFL officials telling Sports Illustrated it will hurt him on draft day because a gay player wouldn't be welcome in an NFL locker room. It would be uncomfortable because that's a man's world. You beat a woman and drag her down a flight of stairs, pulling her hair out by the roots, you're the 4th guy taken in the NFL draft. You kill people while driving drunk, that guy's welcome. Players caught in hotel rooms with illegal drugs and prostitutes, we know they're welcome. Players accused of rape and pay the woman to go away. You lie to police trying to cover up a murder, we're comfortable with that. You love another man, well, now you've gone too far. It wasn't that long ago when we were being told that black players couldn't play in our games because it would be uncomfortable. And even when they finally could, it took several more years before a black man played quarterback because we weren't comfortable with that either. So many of the same people who used to make that argument, and the many who still do, are the same people who say government should stay out of our lives, but then want government in our bedrooms. I've never understood how they feel comfortable laying claim to both sides of that argument. I'm not always comfortable when a man tells me he's gay. I don't understand his world, but I do understand that he's part of mine. Civil rights activist Audre Lorde said, "It is not our differences that divide us. It is our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences." We've always been able to recognize them. Some of us accept them. And I want to believe that there will be a day when we do celebrate them. I don't know if that day's here yet. I guess we're about to find out. But when I listen to Michael Sam, I do think it's time to celebrate him now.
Hey everybody, this is the Dirty Nerdy, here to talk to you about the sponsor of Shethinkers, Audible.com. Did you know Audible has nearly 200,000 titles for you to choose from? They've got everything from fiction to bestsellers and periodicals, you name it. And because you're our listener, you get a free 30-day trial and a free audiobook just by going to audibletrial.com/Shethinkers. This month, we personally recommend The New Jim Crow, Mass Incarceration in the Age of Colorblindness, by Michelle Alexander. She reveals how the justice system is used as a legally endorsed form of discrimination and how it adversely affects people of color. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/Shethinkers. Again, that's audibletrial.com/Shethinkers for any free audiobook of your choice.
The Thurgood Marshall College Fund supports and represents nearly 300,000 students attending its 47 member schools that include public historically black colleges and universities, medical schools, and law schools. TMCF helps students with a clear intention and the motivation to succeed to acquire a high-quality college education at an affordable cost. TMCF also effectively connects high-performing, world-ready students with top-tier employment opportunities, access that students or employers might not have on their own. Through its scholarships and programs, the Thurgood Marshall College Fund plays a key role in preparing leaders of tomorrow. To donate or apply for a scholarship, go to thurgoodmarshallfund.net. Hey, we're back.
Yay, we're back. We totally weren't talking about period blood.
Totally not.
On the break.
I think that needs to be its own episode at some point, too.
Period blood specifically?
Just menstruation in general.
Okay.
All right, so before we left for commercial, we were talking about nagging.
Nagging?
Nagging. Yep,
Yes.
not negging. That's a different
thing.
thing.
Nagging. I thought you said negging.
No.
I didn't understand how that fit in with the rest of the topic.
Well, I'm always down for making fun of PUAs, but not in this particular instance. This is nagging.
Oh dear, nagging.
Also called harping. So
and
yeah.
if you don't think harping is a gendered term, please look up the definition of harpy.
Yeah. Well, and the same thing goes for nag. I'm sorry. Isn't nag like a female donkey or something? I mean, if you want to get down to definitions.
We can. I didn't know that was a term for any type of farm animal.
Yeah. I'm fairly certain that that's true, but I'll look that up while we're talking. Yeah, a nag is an old horse, typically female. That was one of its original definitions.
Nice.
So,
yeah,
both of these terms are gendered.
Yeah, I've never heard of the stereotype of the nagging husband.
No, but everyone has heard of the stereotype of a nagging wife.
I really want to put it out there that I used to be, and I still kind of get a little bit of anxiety over it now, not quite as bad, but when I first started dating and everything, and I was dating men, I was, I didn't want to be that girl. I didn't want to be super naggy, and so it wasn't that I didn't harp,
right.
on things. It was that my needs went unaddressed. Is basically what happened. I didn't want to have my boyfriend or whoever be able to characterize me as a naggy girlfriend, and so I just didn't talk about the things that I needed. or the things that I considered important.
Which means that you end up doing more work.
Exactly. I end up doing more work.
That's the end result of worrying about being a nag.
Exactly. Is that the things that you consider important aren't done. And that's really what it comes down to when it comes to, oh, well, she's nagging me. It's that
I don't consider what she wants me to do important.
Exactly.
Is really what that comes down to.
I can understand if you value something, if you give a certain chore or whatever it is that, you know, she's needing to be done that you think she's nagging about. I can understand if you have a different value placed on that. But that doesn't mean that she's wrong to want it done.
Right.
Or that she's wrong to, you know, say, hey, I need you to do this more. It's just she's expressing her needs to you, and you should listen to that.
When Chris and I argue about this a little more than I would like to. But the thing is if you don't communicate in some way, A, that you have heard the first time that I ask you to do something, and B, that you indicate in some way that I'm not going to do it right now, but I am going to do it after this specific event, and then I will do it. Unless I hear those two things, I'm going to ask again, because I have to assume that you didn't hear me before.
That you didn't hear me, or
you have forgotten, or whatever.
And I understand forgetting, because I forget shit.
I forget shit too.
I don't
expect men to be perfect and remember everything.
Yeah, the boy will say, "Hey, did you do the kitty litter?" And I'll be like, "Oh shit, I forgot about that," and then I'll do it.
Yeah. I'll own that shit. I do it too.
One thing that I really don't like is the "I'll do it tomorrow."
Yeah.
Especially when I know from experience that they won't do it
no,
tomorrow.
You won't.
And then when I ask, they're like, well, you know, that's your job. I'm like, well, no, because you said you would do it.
Right.
So it's one thing to say, you know, I'll do it and then give a specified time when you will. It's another thing for it to be a habit of saying I'll do it tomorrow and then not doing it.
Yeah.
That gets to be. And I've done it in the past, so we're all guilty of it. But I also would never tell the boy that he's nagging me.
No.
And I'm going to go right out there and say it. He's never called me a nag. We've never had that conversation where he's called me a nag.
Must be nice.
I mean, we've had arguments over housework, but he's never outright called me that. So that's nice.
Oh, man, that's a pet peeve of mine.
I know. I get the text messages.
Yep. We're always texting each other about the boys.
And it also goes back to what we were saying before, that women are judged more harshly for the household cleanliness than men are.
Which means housework is more important to us because we're judged about it.
So if you're saying, hey, can you clean up your office space a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
And he keeps saying, oh, you know, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow, and you keep asking him, he may think, why is this so important to her? It's not that important to me, so I don't understand why it matters. But you also have to consider that she's going to be the one judged on that, regardless of whether or not it's his space or your space.
Yep.
People walking in don't know what things are his job and what things are your job. They honestly don't know, and they just assume housework, that's probably her job, and why hasn't she done it?
Yeah, which is its own ridiculous thing to deal with.
Yeah, that's its own problem, and we should deal with that too. But just think, you know, if she keeps telling you over and over again to do something,
maybe you should just fucking do it rather than, you know.
Maybe you should look at it from her point of view and be like, oh, this is obviously something that's important to her, so I should probably just do it. I mean, I would never, like, if the boy kept asking me to do something, I'd never be like, man, why is this so... I would never just dismiss it.
Why are you so obsessed about this?
Yeah, I would never just dismiss it as something that's unimportant. Obviously, there's a reason why they find it important and keep feeling the need to remind me. So, you know, there's that.
Yeah.
Basically, try to look at it from their point of view and understand that there are some things that might just be important to other people that aren't important to you, and that they're not necessarily a nag or harping about it just because they have to remind you again. So we can talk about devaluing female labor for a little bit.
Yeah.
This goes into housework, but it also goes into a lot of other careers that are considered female. Nursing,
those pink-collar jobs again.
Pink-collar jobs, you know. It's the reason why when you discuss unpaid labor, people don't think of housework. is because, oh, well, you know, women do that.
Yep.
Why should you get paid for that? Even though if I were to hire somebody to come in and do it, I'd have to pay them, right?
Exactly.
Like, I can hire someone to come in and be my servant or maid or whatever, and they'll clean the apartment, and I have to pay them a pretty good wage.
I was going to say, you have to pay them fairly well, too.
Yeah, you have to pay them well. I've looked into doing those jobs before. They get paid well. Not the best, but, you know, higher than minimum wage. Like 10 something an hour is the cheapest I saw. So it's like, for some reason, if I were to go out and clean someone else's house, they would pay me that. But when I clean my family's house, suddenly, you know, that's not worth anything.
You're just supposed to do that.
Yeah, you're supposed to do that. That's your job. That's your role. You're supposed to be doing that.
Because vagina.
No. It should be valued. It's important.
Yeah, and we're not even saying that housework isn't important. We're saying it is important and should be valued.
And this bleeds over into what we call pink collar jobs, like nursing and teaching. Those are the two that first come to mind. Something I noticed that is rather odd is male nurses, while goes against stereotype, they are actually paid more than female nurses on average.
They're also given more incentives to go to nursing school.
Exactly. And the thing is, whenever I hear people complaining about affirmative action, they never complain about affirmative action for males in more female-related careers. I never hear anyone complain about, you know, male nurses being given incentives, but I hear people complain constantly about, you know, women or people of color, you know, being given incentives to get into other fields. So it's this whole idea that jobs that are considered female are devalued until as soon as it starts to be seen as more valuable, then males are pushed in and paid more, and the women are pushed out. And one example of that is computer programming. The first computer programmers were women.
Which most people don't even know.
Yeah, most people.
That's pretty much been erased from history.
They don't know this. It started out as women's work. Women would be able to get a job, and the reason it was considered women's work was because it was considered an extension of, like, secretarial work, administrative work. That's what it was seen as.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about the first computers, a lot of it was filing these cards in specific order, which is a lot like filing other things, which secretaries did. So it was seen as menial work, which big strapping men had more important things to worry about. So women were delegated to it. And
as soon as I think it was about the 1970s, people started realizing that the computer programming field was actually going to be.
Oh shit, computers are important.
Holy shit, this is important stuff. They suddenly started incentivizing men to go into these fields and claiming that it was men's work and not women's work, even though women had been doing it for at least 30 years. Since like the 1920s by that point, I think.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember when that.
Well, this article that we were looking at talks about how in the late 70s, the percentage of women working in the computer field was 25%, which is the same that it is now, but we've had this huge dip in between the 70s and the present.
Yeah.
Where women were pushed out of the market.
Now is after women finally in the late 2000s being incentivized to join the computer programming field again. That
25% is the pat ourselves on the back for getting 25%
exactly
women in the field, where that's where we started until men pushed women out of the market, basically.
And computer programming, like I said, it was originally considered menial labor. It was considered an extension of secretarial or administrative work that women were more suited to. As the 1970s came along, and people started realizing that, computer programming is actually really important, and the work is more difficult, and it's more difficult from a mental point of view than we originally thought. Therefore, it's men's work.
Yeah, never mind the fact that women have been doing this work all along. Therefore, women obviously can do this job.
Yeah. like, before this shift happened, thinking that it was women's work and then thinking it was men's work, before that happened, women were encouraged to go into this field.
Yeah.
And as soon as they realized that it was important, snap of the fingers, men started being encouraged to join the field.
Yeah.
And that's really where, like, that was when Bill Gates was coming of age,
and Steve Jobs and all the rest of them.
All these men now that you think of as being the leaders of the computer age, and just think what would have happened if they had continued thinking of it as women's work.
Well, and we should point out that the job of being a programmer also got more glamorous, because originally
it did.
You were in this hot, cramped room, and you're dealing with punch cards and all this, like, it is, I'm not saying it's not a complicated job, because it obviously was maybe even more complicated than programming would be now, because you've got to do it manually.
Exactly.
But once it became a more glamorous job, where you weren't sitting in these huge rooms full of hot computer parts that were making you sweat your ass off, and you weren't dealing with these punch cards and everything. Once it became a glamorous job and not some crap job that nobody wanted, that's when men were pushed into it as well. And the same goes for nursing and teaching and everything else.
Teaching's
a little different.
Opposite.
Yeah.
Back in the the early 20th century is when teaching started becoming more considered female labor and not male labor. Until then, because women weren't always even taught how to read, so why would they be able to teach? But until the early 20th century, it was mostly male teachers.
Well, and when you consider the bigger scheme of Western history in general, the only people who could afford education for the longest time was nobility.
Yeah.
So teaching was a pretty lucrative gig if you could get it, so therefore it was a male job. But once public education enters into the ring, again because of the industrial era, where kids can't work in the factories anymore because, hooray, we passed labor laws finally.
So what are they going to do?
So what are they going to do? We're going to send them to school. So all of a sudden, school is not something that's seen as glamorous or something that's limited to nobility. It's something that everybody gets, even the common people deal with, and therefore it's less glamorous. So,
and you know what first got me thinking about this when I was like in 5th grade. I read the Anne of Green Gables series.
I love Anne of Green Gables.
I do too, and I need to reread them again.
It's one of my favorite books.
Just to see if it's as good as it was when I was a kid.
Oh man.
But I never knew.
We should watch the miniseries.
Oh damn, we should. Until I read those books, I never knew that teaching used to be considered a male thing. I always thought it was considered female, so it made no sense to me. From a cultural perspective, it made no sense to me that she would be discouraged from becoming a teacher because she's female.
Yeah, because in our time...
Yeah, almost every teacher I've had in my life has been a woman.
Until you get to higher education.
Yeah, until I get to high school and most of my science and math teachers were men, and then I get into college and most of my professors are men.
Even, I go to a female university, and I would say probably the majority, it's probably closer to 60% than like 80%, but the majority of my professors are probably male.
Yeah.
Which is fucked up, because it's a female university.
That's I wanted to distinguish that. When I say teacher, I'm not including college educators, higher education, because even though...
That's seen as valuable.
Yeah, that's seen as incredibly valuable in men's work. Even though teaching in the public school arena, grade school, stuff like that.
It's fucking daunting.
Yeah, I know, right? That has switched from male teacher to female teacher over the past century or so. The college educator has still...
It's firmly male still.
It's male. And that still bleeds into our unpaid labor discussion, because colleges more and more are using adjunct professors that aren't paid full-time and aren't given full-time benefits.
Or graduate assistants or teaching
graduate
assistants.
Or TAs, where you pay for a class and then you have a TA
Yeah.
who just writes the assignment on the board and walks out. That's the reason my sister switched from engineering to to an art major.
Yeah.
Is because she paid for these classes and went in, and because of an overflow, they had her class be taught, quote unquote, by a TA. And all they did was walk in, write the assignment on the board, and walk out. And given my knowledge, at first I thought, man, that TA sucks. But given my knowledge now, that TAs, they're not really paid for shit.
Right.
And why would they sit there and lecture a whole class as if they're a full professor if they're not getting paid for it, So this all ties in that, college professor is still seen as a fully male profession, not a female one. And even now, colleges are starting to pull away from paying their professors full as if they would full time by just using adjunct, using people who are working on their master's or their doctorate degree. They're hired on as professors, but they're not paid as if they're full time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They're what's the word? Adjunct.
Yeah, adjunct professors, and that's a whole other ball of wax to deal with too.
And that goes back into the unpaid student internships too.
It does, because and I'll defend GAs to some degree because I'm probably going to be one relatively soon. And we call them all GAs at Texas Women's. I don't know if that's to avoid the TNA joke or if it's because they actually do.
What does GA mean?
Graduate assistant.
Okay, yeah.
Rather than teaching assistant.
I've heard that, yeah.
I will hand it to our GAs, and I've had some bad GAs that teach classes that I thought they were not at all qualified to teach and shouldn't have been teaching. But at least they actually, bless their hearts, do the best that they can.
Yeah, that's like at the time when this happened to this is my older sister it happened to. When this happened to her, I didn't know much about colleges or about how TAs worked or GAs. I didn't know anything about this. I just thought, man, that's really shitty.
Yeah.
To just walk into a class and they're expecting to be taught and have an assignment written on the board. And at the time, I blamed the TA, even though it's not their fault. It's not their fault that they're overworked and underpaid and that they're still expected to do their schoolwork as well.
Yeah.
I blame the university now. It's still shitty for the students in that class, but I don't blame the TA. I blame the university for, claiming to care about education, but then not being willing to pay their professors.
Right.
And I guess this really does tie into the whole unpaid labor discussion we're having. Oh, sorry. I hiccuped again.
But yeah, it's their way of using GAs and TAs is their way of getting around hiring more professors or even adjunct professors, not even full hour professors. Even just adjunct professors, a GA is cheaper to hire than an adjunct professor, so odds are that's what they're going to go with. And
even if they're not as well versed in the subjects,
Yeah, which to me, I don't mind as much if it's just limited to freshman and sophomore classes, because I'm going to be fair, freshman and sophomore classes are pretty damn easy anyway and pretty basic.
Freshman and sophomore. The freshman and sophomore
it's
level
just high school
took,
extended. That's all that it is.
Yeah, I could have made an A in that in high school.
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, there are some high schools where you can just get those 2 years out of the way while you're in high school.
I did that for my English classes.
I have
English classes. I can't say.
I have English. I have a mentor.
English classes.
I have a mentor who's a professor / teacher. She works for a high school where it's an accelerated high school basically. Yeah. So by the time that they graduate with their high school diploma and their associates together.
Associates.
Yes, which I think is badass because then they can just go straight into university at 18.
I would love to do that.
I wish I had known that those things existed when I was a kid.
So basically you have this thing where not only is household labor of oh my god. We're gonna have to get into the stupid sexist song soon because I'm running out.
You can tell when our speech is slurred that it's
I'm
almost
running
time.
out of speech to slur. Not only is household labor devalued, but anything that gets tainted by girl cooties ends up becoming devalued. And as soon as they realize it's valuable and males start joining it, then it becomes valued. But also then women get pushed out of the field. And you can see this with computer programming. It's happening right now with nursing.
Yep.
And it also happened with chefs. There's the old adage.
Cook in your home, that's woman's work. Cook in a professional kitchen, that's a man's job.
Yeah. It's the old adage that women are cooks and men are chefs. So
I have a friend who's a professional chef, and she's had to bust her ass because she's female. Not only that, but she's trans, so there's that extra bit of nonsense to deal with. But she gets shat on all the time for being a female chef, which is ridiculous. Because again, like, the stereotype is that women are supposed to cook unless you're getting paid to cook, and then men should be have those jobs instead for some reason.
When I was in high school, I got a job working at Sonic. And I'm gonna be honest, I loved my job at Sonic. Looking back, I can't understand why I loved it so much, but I did. I really loved. I looked forward to going to work when I worked there.
How old were you?
I was like 17, I think, when I got the job.
You're just happy to be working and getting paid at that age, right?
Oh, well, I already had another job. I had 2 jobs. When I was 17, I had 2 jobs. Yeah.
Did you get to roller skate?
Right. No, they wouldn't let me. Okay, right after I got the job, like a week after, I was in a car accident and I broke my wrist. So they wouldn't let me roller skate while I had my arm in a cast. Obviously.
It would send a bad message.
Right? But then even after it healed and everything, they still wouldn't let me roller skate because they were afraid that if I fell, I would break my wrist would get broken again. Even though technically after you break your bone, when it recalcifies, it's actually supposed to be stronger than it was originally, but whatever, I'm not going to get into science.
Right.
The manager at Sonic.
Do you even science, bro?
But, so yeah, I never got to roller skate. That would have been cool. But I really did love my job at Sonic. I want to put that out there just so everyone knows. Maybe I was just ignorant. I was just,
You're a happy-go-lucky 17-year-old. Why
exactly. I was like, shit, man, I'm getting paid.
Yay!
Hooray, money. I didn't have very many bills at the time, so that's probably why.
This is why working's awesome when you're in high school.
I do remember during my interview, and this might be the reason I got hired, I don't know, part of the reason, the guy said, I asked him, I had filled out the application and everything, I go to the job, and I didn't really know what position they were interviewing me for, and I asked him, and he was like, oh, well, we're interviewing you for car op, and I was like, oh, so I won't be working in the back making the food, and he was like, no, funnily enough, most girls don't make it as a cook at Sonic, but and I laughed at the joke. I thought it was hilarious. Because women are supposed to be cooks. Ha ha! Yeah, I was the chill girl in high school. I was
okay.
The girl who laughed at the sexist jokes, thought they were hilarious.
I was too. It's all good.
But it was true. I mean, most of the cooks in the back were men, and it's still true even today in the restaurant job I have now. Most of the cooks in the back are men. Not only that, but they're also Latino.
Yep.
So that works.
Hooray, intersectionality.
Go to any restaurant, I can almost guarantee you the cooks in the back are going to be Latino, Latina, that's just how it is. It's what they do.
Racism.
Yay! Well, the idea goes if you're not fluent in English, put you in the back of the house, so then you're a cook.
Or a dishwasher
or something. Or a dishwasher, or a busser.
Yep.
That's just how it works out. It still sucks though.
Yep.
Because that's a really hard job.
Oh, it is.
I'm gonna put that out there.
I've been a dishwasher and a side cook and a busser before.
Yeah, when I worked at Taco
They're
Cabana,
hard fucking jobs.
I worked at Taco Cabana, man, and I was gonna become a shift leader. Actually, you know what? Screw it. I was a shift leader. They just didn't have me take all the tests so they wouldn't have to pay me as one.
Yep.
I had a fucking key to the store. Don't tell me I wasn't a shift leader. They left me
Sounds
alone
like
in the
one to me.
restaurant to be the highest senior there. You know, I was a shift leader.
Yep.
They just didn't want to pay me as one. It's one of the reasons I quit. But, yeah, I trained to be a cook. Everybody there ended up washing dishes at some point. It's a hard job. It is. It's physically demanding.
I kind of liked being a dishwasher to some degree.
There were some nights when I liked it. Because you could just stand back there and just do the same thing over and over again. You didn't have to talk to any customers. It was kind of nice.
Like, I would just plug in my, music and just jam out to that and just clean my ass off for hours.
Then there were the nights that I had to close by myself with the GM, and I'm back there doing dishes until 2 a.m. and I have midterms. That sucks. The next day. And so I don't get any sleep because I get off work at 2 a.m. after cleaning all the dishes because no one else did their side work when they left. And, anyways, this is turning into just a bitch fest about my old jobs. I forgot what my original point was.
I don't know. Do you want...
Women's work is devalued until it becomes paid work, and then it's valued more.
And then women can't do it anymore.
And then women can't do it anymore for some reason. There. That was my point.
There we go.
All right, let's do the stupid sexist song because I'm getting too drunk to talk about serious things.
Well, I was thinking we could do Bible study real quick and then end with the sexist song.
We'll do
so
that.
This will be fun.
We've kind of done the Bible and women's rights before, though, right? We talked about Psalms or whatever.
To some degree, yeah. So I wanted to talk about this one hits close to home for me because a lot of these are about what marriage should look like when it comes to male and female roles, which is, relatively related to what we've been talking about. So rather than talking about these fucked up Bible verses, because whatever, you can go to our blog and read them. You know what the Skeptic's Annotated Bible is. You know how terrible the Bible is towards women. I'm just going to make it story time for a minute and talk about little baby Dory going off to the first, we're going to split people up by gender in Bible study school. And I had to go to the boys' Bible study class where they taught us how...
I am in rapt attention right now.
They taught us how things are pretty great for boys according to the Bible because women are supposed to be subjective to you. But there's a lot of pressure and it's super serious because you have to be the head of the household and you have to make all the important decisions and whatever.
It's so hard for men being in charge.
Yeah, that literally was how this was phrased, and I can't even describe to you how surreal it is to be female in a room where everyone thinks that you're male and they think that it's like a men's only club at the moment. And so men say a lot of shit that they wouldn't say if they thought a woman was listening.
It kind of reminds me of when racists think that I'm also racist because I'm white.
Yeah.
And so they start talking about shit, and I'm like, no, I don't agree with you.
If you've ever read, fuck, I just forgot it. White Like Me. Have you?
Yeah.
If you've ever read White Like Me, that's what being trans is like a lot of the time, because you're a female or male, but you're granted access to these spaces where people say shit that makes you super uncomfortable because they're denigrating your particular gender in front of you, and then wonder why you're so upset when they're doing it. So yeah, that was one of my early forays into feminism and atheism, as it turns out, because the whole time they were going on about this, I was like, wait, who says that women are any less capable of making decisions than men are? I don't understand. Why the fuck would God make it this way? And they're like, well, it's complementary. It's not that women are less capable than men. It's just that women are better at different things than men are. And I'm like, well, that's horseshit, because I know 10 different women who are better at 10 different things. They're not all identical to one another, and the same goes for men.
My mom and stepdad were in this biblical marriage class or whatever at their church, I kept wanting to say Bible study. Their church, though. And I used to, every Sunday, I used to go out to eat at lunch with my mom and my stepdad. It was just kind of a thing we did. I would get off work and we'd go out to eat at lunch. And my stepdad one day, they had been having this argument because their marriage Bible study class or whatever was being taught by this couple. And the male of the couple, the man, kept getting up there and basically claiming this whole complimentary thing. Like, oh, well, women are better at this in the marriage and men are better at this. And just making, like, completely generalized statements about what each gender is better at. And my stepdad asked my opinion of it. And I was like, well, let's look at it this way. Every couple is made up of two individuals, right? And he's like, yeah. And I said, well, no individual is the exact identical of any other individual, right? And he said, yes. And I was like, so each role in the marriage should be determined by the individuals in the marriage, correct? And he said, I guess so. And I was like, so the genders shouldn't really matter, should they? I mean, you can have a marriage where the man is really good at the housework and the woman is really good at the bills and going to work or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, whatever it was that they were, I don't remember the entire conversation.
Whatever sexist bullshit they were propagating.
Whatever sexist bullshit, it could be the opposite. Because he agreed that no individual is the exact same as any other individual.
Even though that's what the Bible is claiming.
So, if you're going to have a happy marriage, it's more about communicating and understanding who is better at what based on their individual experience in life, you know? And he agreed with that, but then he was like, well, that's not really what the Bible says. And I'm like, well, you know,
the Bible's probably
maybe
wrong.
Maybe the Bible's wrong here. And this was one of my first forays into thinking that the Bible is wrong too, was thinking about this on my own. But that was one of the first times that I actually voiced it.
Yeah.
And I was surprised and kind of happy, like elated, to realize that my mom agreed with me.
Yeah.
She had been making my argument, but she wasn't bold enough to just say the Bible is wrong. And I was just like, well, maybe the Bible's wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe the Bible was written by ignorant people, you know, back 2,000 years
ago. Back in the fucking Bronze Age.
And they don't really understand about that. Maybe they just didn't get it. And I think he kind of conceded that conversation, but I don't think he actually conceded the argument.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
This class was so, in particular, it was so uncomfortable for me because there was one night in particular where we were just going round and round on this because I'm raised by a single mom who's a badass and a feminist and sex positive and all this other cool shit. So even though I'd been raised in a sexist society, I in no way thought women were any worse than men. If anything, I thought women were better than men.
Yeah, I do want to point out, growing up, the women, the people that I saw as role models in my life were all women that I knew from going to church.
Yeah.
They weren't women that I knew necessarily in my secular life at school or whatever. They were my mom, who, after seeing her go through a difficult divorce from my father, went back to school, worked 3 jobs, and went to school for like 2 years at least. She kept that up.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. I almost started to cry. It was so, like, amazing. Like, my mom is one of the people I admire most in my life.
Yep, same for me.
Even though we don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, she's still one of the people I admire most in my life because of the work I saw her put into making our lives better.
Yeah.
And so it's like my mom, other people, other women that I knew from the church who I saw take on leadership roles that honestly I didn't see in secular society. I saw mostly men in charge.
Yeah.
In secular society.
Well, and that's true. Women tend to be in charge in religious sections to a degree.
To a degree. And that's why I have a problem. It seems a little patronizing sometimes when I go to, like, when I talk to some male atheists
and they're like, why are women
so religious? They must be dumb. And I'm like, no, they just...
It's one of the few areas where women can have real power.
It is.
It makes sense to me.
Because in our sexist society, spirituality is seen as a woman's trait and not as a man's trait. Even though the man is supposed to be the
head of the household
lead of the household. it's a contradiction. No one said patriarchy made sense.
No. No one's going to make that argument.
And so it's like, I'm like, well, looking back when I was a kid, most of the strongest women I knew in my life were all religious. So it makes sense for me to consider religion a large part of my life for a very long time. So yeah, it's like you see the sexism in religion, but then you also see that it's one of the few parts of a woman's life where they can feel like they have some sort of control.
And the worst thing for me was up until this point, church had been really the only one of the few safe spaces I had.
Yeah.
Because I was bullied constantly at school.
Yeah, that's what was for me too.
I had a lot of fucking drama going on at home in my family life. Church was one of the only safe havens that I had. And then when they split us up along gendered lines, that's when it stopped becoming a safe place for me. And
when did they split you along gender lines?
I want to say it was when we were 12, 13-ish. So like end of middle school is when they started splitting us. It was when they were worried about puberty, basically. So that's when they split us.
We had children's church, of course, all together. But basically, Sunday school was always split along gender lines since I was in like first grade.
Oh God,
it was always girls in this class, boys in this class.
That's just weird.
And I didn't notice anything weird about it till I was in like 8th grade.
But the worst part was when I kept going round and round with this group of men, and this one person in particular who I had always thought was a cool guy and a friend and whatever else basically said to me, Dory, what are you so worried about? Don't rock the boat. We got the good end of the stick here. And I was just like, no, this is fucked up. And even if it benefits me in some way, I'm still not going to think that it's not fucked up.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared to be like, no, it doesn't, because I'm not you. But
I basically, looking back, I didn't use this term when I was younger, but in 8th grade, I stopped going to Sunday school. And I argued my case to my mother, and she agreed with me. Well, she didn't agree with me, but she agreed that I strongly had feelings, and it wasn't going to be good for me to continue going to Sunday school, basically. But I stopped going to Sunday school because of feminism when I was in 8th grade.
Yeah, same
I didn't
for
use
me.
that term. I didn't know. I didn't have the vocabulary for it. But when my mom found out that I was skipping Sunday school, because of course they're gonna be like, "Hey, your daughter's been hiding in the bathroom during Sunday school, or hiding in the youth cafe." The youth had this like cafe thing, and it was basically on the honor system. You put so much in a bucket, and you can take whatever snacks.
Yeah.
But they didn't really care if you just took some. But
so you hid in the bathroom from Bible class too?
I either hid in the bathroom or I hid in that cafe, and I talked to my friend Liam. Liam, that's a whole other podcast.
Right.
Anyways. But my mom found out that I was hiding from Sunday school, and she was like, "Hey, why aren't you going to Sunday school?" And I said, in so many words, feminism.
Right.
And my mom was like, "Look, I may not completely agree with you, but I can tell that you have strong feelings about this, and you're really articulate. You're able to explain your reasoning. So I don't see the point in you continuing to go if you're just going to argue with your teacher or feel unwelcome there. So don't worry about going, but, if you're not going to go, at least do homework or something. Either be in the service or go to the bookstore." There was like this little bookstore nook thing at our church. She was like, either go to the service or go into the bookstore and read. Do one of those two things so I know where you are. So that's what I did. And she agreed. I didn't go to Sunday school again after that, after I was in 8th grade. I never once went to another Sunday school. And I stopped going to church for a while. I was still very religious. Like, I considered it a very personal thing. Yeah. I would have been one of the nuns that was still religious. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
N-O-N-E-S, not N-U-N-S.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? That's why when we hear about the existence of more and more nuns, and percentage-wise, I'm like, they're not necessarily atheist.
No, I always make that distinction when I talk about the nuns.
Because that's what I would have been, because I didn't like going to church. I didn't consider myself a denominational Christian. I was like, I'm non-denominational. I still loved Jesus and all that jazz.
Yeah.
But yeah, for a couple of years there, I went to service irregularly because I didn't really have a church that I belonged to anymore. I didn't go to Sunday school, and it wasn't until I started working in church nurseries that I would go regularly again. So that's my thing, I guess. I don't remember what my point was.
I don't know. You want to do the stupid sexist song?
Yes. I'm so drunk, I want to do that.
This is one of our... it's another installment of songs that Dirty Nerdy and I actually like, but we admit are sexist.
Yep. I want to put it... Okay. We're gonna talk about... it's called Girls by the Beastie Boys, and this song has a special place in my heart because when I remember this song when I was in like junior high and high school, and it was one of the only songs, the only times that I could admit to myself that I liked girls was when I was listening to this song. So I was able to ignore the sexist bits because I was able to accept a part of myself that I couldn't normally while I listened to it.
Yeah.
But it is very, very sexist. So... without further ado,
let's get into it.
The L on my keyboard doesn't work.
Oh no.
Pause it. I learned how to play this song on the xylophone in high school. I played the shit out of this song all the time. It was fun. All right, you can play it again.
Girls.
My boobs jiggle when I dance.
And it's chilly here to talk. And I can always make them smile. From White Castle to the Nile.
Okay, pause it. Alright, it's chill to hear them talk. Like, that's really patronizing. Like, you hear those girls talking? Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's pretty chill.
That's chill. I'm cool with that. Like, really? What? They can't just have opinions without you having to say, yeah, that's chill. I like to hear them talk.
I don't like to listen to them
I don't like to listen to them. I just like to hear them talk. Especially when they smile.
Yep.
From White Castle to the Nile. Alright, you can play it again.
Back in the day.
Why does he have to ask MCA if it's okay? MCA does not own this girl.
Maybe he should be asking her.
Yeah,
Consent is sexy.
It's
right?
like... she liked his friend of his, MCA, who is in the band, of course, if you know Beastie Boys. And he didn't like her. And for some reason... This guy is like, I'm going to ask MCA if I can. Like, well, that doesn't even make any sense. He obviously doesn't like her, so why would you have to ask his permission?
I don't know. Because of the bro code, right? Do we want to comment on her pants are tight?
No, I think that's okay.
That's good to know.
That's okay.
I hope she'll say, hey, me and you should hit the hay. I asked her out, she said no way. I should have probably guessed her gay.
Because if a woman doesn't want to fuck you, she must be a lesbian, right?
Again, when I was in high school and they were like, well, if she doesn't want to fuck this dude, then she must be gay. And I'm like, yes.
Yay!
Nostalgia, you know. It always make you like things that you shouldn't. Okay.
So I broke her with no delay. I heard she moved real far away. That was 2 years ago this May. I seen her just the other day.
Chucking my tea
To my dismay.
She doesn't like... She likes her friend. Your friend doesn't like her. So you like her, but she doesn't like you.
And then years later...
Years later... This is years later. You find out that she's jocking. Is that a blowjob? I don't even know what that term means.
I don't know.
having sex with your other friend, and it's like it's almost slut-shamey.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit, and it's like, well, just because she doesn't like you
doesn't mean she doesn't like men in general.
Exactly.
Even though he thinks she's a lesbian because she doesn't want his dick.
Right? Which is really weird because he knew that she liked his friend.
Right?
It's like she likes this other dude, but not me, so obviously she's gay.
Maybe he's saying that MCA looks like a woman.
Maybe.
Maybe that's what...
I've never seen what MCA looks like.
I don't know.
Oh, no. What is she doing in the bathroom?
I don't know, man.
Why do you think she doesn't like you, dude? You're asking her to do the dishes and clean your room and do the laundry? Fuck you.
Remember that episode in DS9 where Nog is a total asshole to the state?
Oh my god. I tweeted about it. Go to Dirty Nerdy 2 on Twitter and check out my tweets about Nog being a jerk to women. Seriously wanting him to cut up his meat for him at dinner. Fuck you, Nog.
And that's him being liberal.
Yeah, right. He's like, in traditional Ferengi households, the woman chooses to feed the meal for him.
I'm making progress. I deserve a cookie.
That's all I really want is girls. 2 at a time I want girls.
Who doesn't?
Right? You're probably not going to get 2 at a time being an asshole, though.
Right?
Oh, man. I think that's the perfect segue into closing out for the night. I like doing the stupid sexist song at the end. It's fun.
Oh, we did do it at the end of the night.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well,
that's all the time we have. Join us next week when we go off the rails with communist rants about consumerism.
Are we going to talk consumerism next week for reals?
Who knows? I say we should.
All right.
You know, you and I are always down for communist rants, right? It's one of our hobbies.
They do have some good arguments.
They have some pretty convincing arguments. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and on our blog at secularshethinkers.wordpress.com. And now, in the interest of being fair and unbiased, here is tonight's counter-argument.
So often we hear from the left and from the progressives that they're tolerant. They want to hear other opinions. Mm-hmm. They want to hear the facts. And yet it seems like when somebody such as yourself comes out with a position that doesn't really fall in line, then they don't even want to hear from you at all.
Oh, they are extremely intolerant of anyone who doesn't agree with them. If you agree with them, oh yeah, everybody's under the tent and we're all a big happy family. But, you know, I've been quite, I would say, astonished at the level of hostility that I have acquired. You know, the IRS has investigated me. They said, I want to look at your real estate holdings. There was nothing there. Well, let's expand to a entire everything. Nothing there. Let's do another year. Finally, after a few months, they went away. But, you know, they've come after my family. They've come after friends. They've come after associates. You know, we live in a Gestapo age. People don't realize it.
I can see your will is strong. Well, we have ways of making it talk. Where are your rebel friends now?
Your Pop-Tarts are ready.
All right!
Lift me up, let me go, silvery planet smooth.